What's up, guys? I'm Justin Davis, and while you might not learn a lot today, we're gonna have some fun on the channel, and that's what flying FPV is all about. I don't want to bore you with endless long drawn out minutes of specs and everything. On this kit, I want to talk about the fun factor with the Eachine Novice IV V2. So here it is on the kitchen table, and you know what? It's nice because for this price, you get an upgraded transmitter with this kit versus the older one that came with, I think it was the FlySky i6, and that locks you into one receiver protocol. So what does that mean? Without getting too technical, this is a 4-in-1 multi-protocol, which includes a whole list of different receivers that you can bind to. Everything from like Spectrum to Futaba to FrSky modules, receiver modules. So you can pretty much bind this to just about anything. Now this is the lower version of this transmitter. It's not the full-blown one that has like 100 different receivers you can bind to. This one has more of a limited list, but it is a jumper T light and it feels good on the sticks. It feels like I'm flying a big transmitter, which is really nice. So, and it's really precise. If you want to learn how to fly acro, this is a freaking awesome place to start. Much better than the Tiny Hawk transmitter with the kind of bubble gimbals, as I call them, look like little balls that they rotate on. These are actual gimbals in here, and they feel really nice. So full-size switches on there. You can go in there and set up multiple quads on here. So this is a ready-to-fly kit that you can expand into later, and you can bind up like as many drones to this little transmitter as you want. So the Jumper T Light is one of my favorites, and I actually have multiples of these now and I fly all of my micros on this one. And this is the CC2500 version of this, if you want to look this up and look at the specs on it before you buy it. We also have Eachine goggles in this pack. We have a charger that charges up the 3S for 50 milliamp batteries that come along with it, and it looks like a rebranded G&B battery, which is kind of interesting. And I'm getting probably 3 minutes flight time on if I'm doing like a hardcore freestyle Justin Davis type flight. I'm high on the throttle, I'm doing punch outs, dives, power loops, all that stuff with this quad. So the cool thing about the Eachine Novice IV V2, God, it's so much to talk about, is that it flies really good. Okay, number one, if you're a beginner, you can start out in stability mode. That's gonna be switches all the way away from you. And when you switch down, it's gonna put it into acro mode. You can do that later. And I recommend doing that high up. Switch into acro the first time. A lot of times when you guys first do that, you immediately crash because there's no stabilization, yeah? But start out in that stability mode and you can literally cruise around in your backyard. This is a little backyard ripper and parking lot ripper. It's an anti-Karen drone. A lot of times people don't hear this, they hear it momentarily, but then it's gone. And this thing is really hard to see in the air. And I think it's pretty fast. You can fly this thing around probably 3 miles per hour or up to like 40 miles per hour. I swear to God, this thing is super fast. So I love the fact that it can carry a little larger battery as well. If you want to get a long flight time battery, I'd recommend the 3S 550 milliamp battery, or maybe even a 650 on here. So I'm going to put some links down below to my various different recommended batteries for you. When you buy this one, you can probably grab a couple long flight batteries. I also like the fact that you can put an Insta360 Go on top of here. It will carry a camera, so you could cinema or you could freestyle this little guy. So a lot of options on this one. And it has a unibody on the bottom. It's fairly durable, it's lightweight, it's under 250 grams, so you don't have to register this one. It's classified as a toy by the FAA, and the camera on mine is pretty good. We're gonna talk about some of the more detailed specs coming up in this review, but I'm gonna keep it honest on this review, and we're gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly as always in this review. But first, let's go fly, let's go rip. We'll do a little parking lot ripping, and we'll come back after that and we'll talk about the Novice IV V2 on the bench, and we'll talk about all the good stuff that's in this package and if it's worth the money. Here we go. right, guys, welcome back from that rock and roll flight test. Man, this thing is fun to fly. I have been flying FPV for over 10 years. I was having a ball with this quad. You know what? Because I love lightweight quads that have a high power to weight ratio. This thing, when you hit the throttle, it's so light that with the 12 series motors on here, it freaking takes off. If you want to fly slow, you can back down off that throttle and fly at about 25 to 30% throttle. Instability mode, if you're a beginner, I mean, you could safely cruise around your house with this indoors. So it's a 3-inch quad though, so you know, if you have other people in the house, it's probably not a good idea to fly when there's someone else in the house. But if you have a good sized house with an upstairs, downstairs, you could absolutely fly around your house when it was raining outside with this guy instability mode. Now I think acro mode, it might be just too fast to fly indoors, but for acro, your first acro trainer quad that would be pretty durable outside to learn acro, it will do any type of freestyle move that the 5-inch quads could do. This thing will power loop, it will do dives from 80-foot Oregon trees. I mean, I can do S bends, I split S with it. I can loop it, I can gap it, I can do anything with this thing. You could Matty flip this thing. It's crazy. So it's totally capable of doing just about anything you want to throw at it. So very, very cool. It also comes with an onboard VTX recording DVR. So this little SD card right here goes into the side slot, and you can record 1080p videos from this EOS 2 video cameras, which is really, really super nice. The goggles also are the EV800 goggles that come along in the box. Those are a pretty decent resolution. Those are 800 by 480 pixels. They're actually better than some of the other beginner goggles, which is pretty interesting. But I think the two biggest things about, well, three biggest things is that this is under 250 grams, number one. Number two, it comes with a new updated Jumper T Lite radio, which I absolutely love and adore. I did a review on this one a while back, and I said it was the SHIT. It is. It has also an external module bay that comes with the pieces and parts in this. All you do is plug in a cable on the inside of the radio and put these two screws on right here. And this little micro kind of JR module bay installs here. You can run Crossfire and other long-range protocol modules on there like ELRS. So very, very nice, because you can load unlimited models on this, and not just one quad can bind up to this. You can also fly it with Taranis receivers, FR Sky receivers, Futaba, and DSM-X receivers from Spectrum. So yeah, bind this up to your other models. It's not just locked down to this model, which I love. And this thing has its own version of OpenTX, which is like very good. It's not like a fly-by-night build that's on this for the OS for the radio. That's super sweet. So the weight on the quad, as you saw earlier, is 66 grams. So this little baby is under 100 grams without the battery. That's crazy to me because of the performance of it. It flies like a little 5-inch. I mean, it even feels better than a 5-inch because it's so small that you could power loop just about anything. Something that was like 3 feet off the ground. With the battery, you're looking at 109 grams. That is really, really nice. And the secret sauce of this quad, two things. The radio, the updated radio, it feels way better than the Tiny Hawk little bubble style gimbals. This one has very natural gimbals on here, and it feels loose on the freestyle, but if you slow down in stability mode, it feels nice and locked in, and it tracks really well. So if you want to fly this in the backyard or like even as a parking lot ripper, the EOS 2 camera is not my favorite, but you can really see where you're going, and you can see if there's people around, which is super important. Now the next thing that's absolutely awesome about this quad versus most of the other beginner quads out there is that this has updated motors on here. So this is 12 series motors from Eachine. They're Eachine branded here on this side. Flip it around and you're looking at 1203 5500 kV motors. The 12 series motors, I've talked about this before, there has been kind of a paradigm shift in the evolution of micro quads in the past 5 years. We started out making brushed ones, little tiny whoops, fly around in the house, make gates and things. And then we went to outside quads with brushed motors for micro sub 250G scale. And we started out with 1102 motors, 1103, 1104, and we kept getting bigger and bigger in the 11 series motors. But the problem was the 11 series motors have a high amp draw rate and they have high RPM. The KV is super high on them. The higher the KV, the less efficient they are for the onboard battery. Now, why are most of these micros 2-inch, 2.5-inch, and some of these toothpick style drones coming out with 12 series motors now? Well, they're a little larger than the 11 series motors, and they're way more efficient for the amp draw to the battery. So in times past, say 4 or 5 years ago, when I was running 11 series motors, I would puff my 3S450s like super quick. You'd see them start to puff. The 12 series motors have a really nice high end of the throttle. They're very smooth. I think they're quieter. They don't kind of scream like a bumblebee like the 11 series motors do, and they puff the batteries way less. So this is a smart move on the manufacturer standpoint. So we're benefiting there for nice, smooth, and quiet power. It's not a Karen drone. It is definitely an anti-Karen drone because you kind of momentarily hear it, but this thing is so small and fast that you have a hard time seeing where this thing was coming from or where it's going. So it's very stealth as far as an outdoor ripper goes. But the tune on here also is freaking fantastic. I'm loving the tune on this quad, and I did bounce down a couple times without any damage. We got 3mm bottom plate here. I believe it was 132mm from motor to motor here. It's a true X design, top plate with recessed LEDs. It has a flat top on the top, which I love because you can get an action camera up here. You could put the Go 2 on here, give it a little tilt. It's got a lot of holes in the top of this top plate as well for adding zip ties or anything else you want to carry along. If you wanted to add GPS, you could probably also do that. We have a flight controller that's rated up to 4S as well, but I really wouldn't put 4S on here because I don't think the 12 series motors are capable of 4S, so I wouldn't do that. It does have really nice LEDs though. I'll light that up for you real quick. I wish it had a better strap on here. It's one thing that I think the strap is kind of chintzy, but check out the LEDs. In the dark or on a cloudy day, these things are super visible, and they move around a little bit too. Isn't that cool? They flash back and forth. And then on the very top, we have 400 milliwatt VTX, guys. That's freaking awesome. You have 2 buttons here on the side, and this first button is for changing the channels and the bands. You can see that little tiny LED there moving across. Hopefully you have your glasses on, you can see that. And if you long press it, it'll change the bands. The bands are over here, and those are in blue. This button right here is for the onboard DVR recording. So this is kind of cool. It has its own little SD card slot on this VTX right here. Put in your SD card, and you're recording videos at 1080p on here via SD card. That's pretty cool. If you press this button in the back right here, that will start a red light flashing on this side, and you'll be recording videos from your onboard camera. That's nice. Other thing is that, Caddx EOS 2 camera is not my favorite either. I would say that this could probably be a better camera. Could be updated. If you're a beginner and you get this quad in the mail, go ahead and bring this camera down to about 10% grade of pitch right here, and that will allow you to fly this quad slower in stability mode and really be precise with it, because since it doesn't have prop guards, the props can hit things, and they probably could hurt you if they hit you at a high throttle or high speed, so be careful with other people around. Now a little bit more tilt up to about 25 to 30 degrees. That's where you want to be if you're going to freestyle, doing power loops or trying Matty flips or things like that, or big dives. I just like a lot of camera angle, and that increases the speed of the quad. So you're going to fly much faster now because you're going to be able to see on more of a tilt. So the higher this quad tilts like this in the forward position of the flight, you're going to go much faster. More leveled out, you're going to be slower and be able to go through the tree canopy a lot easier. We also have an XT30 connector here. That's giving us really good power here on this quad, and I'm going to recommend that you take a zip tie and zip tie it off to the arm. If this battery somehow becomes ejected from the quad in a bad crash, you don't want this being pulled on. If these two break off right here, it's going to break the tabs off, and you're pretty much going to have a useless quad if these tabs break off. They're not able to be put back on unless you're a total pro. We also have tape over top of the motor wires, which is good. It keeps the wires out of the props here. We have 3-inch props on here, 2 bolt configuration. These are, I believe these are gym fans. No, these are HQ props. And I'll try to put some links down below to my favorite prop. These are also T 3x2s. So not a lot of aggressive pitch here. So you have a pretty efficient, quiet prop. If you're flying like low throttle, probably anyone would notice this quad being around. You have 4 bolts on the top to release this top plate, also very easy to get into. But I think my favorite thing about this update too is, the 12 series motors, that's awesome. F4 flight controller, brand new flight controller. We have Open TX on this jumper T-Light, and this is a transmitter that you can bind up as many models as you'd ever have to this one transmitter. You can bind up to multi-protocols without having to have like any external module in the back. Years ago, if you wanted to bind up a Spectrum receiver, you had to go get a Spectrum module, say like from Hobby King. And now these 4-in-1 multi-protocol radios have like a whole list of different receiver protocols in here. So you can actually bind up like Spectrum receivers, FlySky, you could bind up Taranis FR Sky D16 XM Plus receivers or RXSR receivers. And even some of the hobby grade toy drones can bind up to these, like Bang Yang toys and other quads that you get that are super cheap, like $30 brushed quadcopters. This is not the full-blown T-Light. Unfortunately, you have to pay a little bit more for this bundle, so they made it cheaper by giving you the CC2500 version. The JP, I believe it's the JP 4-in-1 module, JP 4-in-1 version that has the full-blown list, like 100, maybe, I don't know, 50 different protocols. But this one is great. It will get you started and probably be able to bind up to most of your other models if you own other models. So I'm not totally sure, but I believe it can bind up to the Emax Tiny Hawk if you already have those. A lot of you guys already have that quad, and you're wondering if you can get away from that terrible Emax transmitter. Also, again, like the resolution on the Eachine goggles is pretty decent. Starting out, this will get you started. The only terrible thing about these EV800 goggles is that it doesn't have a DVR on it, so there's no SD card support here. It does have an internal antenna here and a secondary antenna here for a right-hand circular polarized antenna. It works very well, like in a parking lot environment. And if you're running 400 milliwatt on this guy, it's going to be pretty solid video. And I have to say that the resolution on here, it's better than some of the other ones out there. And it's a 5-inch screen in here, 800 by 480 pixels resolution. So that's kind of cool. It has a smaller open here, so that has less light leaks all the way around. And I feel like this could be a little nicer here. It looks like if you have a really big nose, you might be touching plastics. You might have to put some extra foam here. So that's the one thing about that. But I feel like that should be a lot less light leak there. And really, with goggles, you want to try on a pair if you have a friend that has some to start out. But most of the time when you're a beginner, you're kind of hoping that the ready-to-fly package comes with something decent. And I would say these are decent. They're not high-end goggles, but if you want good goggles, grab a pair. If you have glasses, grab a pair of the Skyzone Cobra X's. If you don't need glasses, grab a pair of the binocular-style Skyzone 04X's. Those are freaking awesome. That's what I've been flying a lot lately. So those and the 030s, my original Skyzone goggles, and it has a great DVR. I will also put a link down below for you guys for an Eachine DVR that can record and show you like a little monitor. It's like a little kind of watch that goes on your arm, or you can give it to someone that's like maybe your grandson or your kid, and they can watch your flight while you're flying, even though you're in the goggles. So it shares the signal between a bunch of 5.8 devices, which is cool. And you'll also be able to record. I think those things are like 35 bucks or 40 bucks. I'll put the link down below for those and all of my recommended batteries for that. My long flight battery, which will be like a 3S550. And my recommendation to you guys, if you're brand new and you're just getting into our hobby, grab this kit and also buy yourself some 2S 450 batteries. I'm going to put the link down below for some 2S 450s as well, because what will 2S do for you? It will slow down this quad. 3S might be a little bit much for you to handle in the beginning, and I would recommend starting out on 2S and then moving up to 3S with the Novice 3 V2. Great update, new motors, new radio, really nice package. Get the 2 battery bundle, grab some extra batteries, because you're going to want like 5 or 6 batteries with this little guy. And these charge up in about, I'd say 20 minutes time on the charger that comes in the box. Very simple to charge them up. You just plug them into the balance port here on the side. I believe it's this one right here. This will also charge up to a 4S battery, which is cool. 2, 3, and 4S batteries on this charger. Pretty stinking nice. So yeah, guys, you can check out the link down below. I appreciate all of your purchases on the channel. If you like and want to subscribe, please do like this video and subscribe to my channel. More new drone releases are coming up on the channel. This one was a great fun for me, and I enjoyed showing it to you. So thanks again, guys. Stay humble and be kind out there. Fly safe and happy FPV. I'll see you on the next one.